Welcome back to another episode of Getting Personal. I'm here today with my friend Ricky, co-founder of Sad Cats and the Bandits. How are you doing today, Ricky? It's great to have you, man.
Yeah, I'm really good. Um, just sat at work at the moment, just taking a bit of time out there, coming to chat to you.
Sounds good. Let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
Before we talk about the projects you're working on, from your perspective as a creator in the space in Web3 on Hedera, what's your sentiment as we sit here today in regards to NFTs?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so I think what we went through. Well, I think we went through a little bit of a what probably could be called a fad with NFTs. You know, people kind of diving in. What's this? Loads of liquidity coming in, and and then obviously when that hasn't materialized for some people, or they've had bad experiences, they've kind of taken that out, or they've went wherever there's more profit, or where it's more stable, or there's less of a kind of a I guess a governmental hold on them kind of investments. And I think what we're left with now is just loads of opportunity. Kind of people actually seeing NFTs as not just this kind of quick thing to kind of make money and build projects on and businesses through, but actually really good use cases for how they can be used and how things can be tokenized, and again opportunities to kind of do projects, like I'm doing with Loralai, teach another generation about the kind of the prospects of what they've got ahead of them, and essentially putting them in a great space to really kind of take advantage of that when it comes to the time, but when the rest of the world cottons onto NFTs, because they undoubtedly will.
Yeah, nice. Let's tell me about that journey that you've been on. You mentioned Loralai. It's been the past few months, right? If I'm not mistaken. How
Yeah.
did it start? And what are you working on together?
So, I mean, I love that question. How did it start? Because actually, my interpretation of how that started is massively different from Lorelai's, who we just did an interview with Mince and Drops on Phil, and she and her interpretation of how it started was, well, me and my dad were watching the boxing and having some pizza. And I said, Dad, remember that NFT project? Let's do it. And then we did it. It's just like the innocence of that is just so much richer in content than my interpretation of it ever would be. But mine was kind of a little bit more methodical. I've watched Lorelai, with what I believe is a gift for art, not only her application of it, but of it, her passion for it, and how she does it so effortlessly. And I think that's kind of finding that, for me, that was music. For Lorelai, that's art. Finding something that is able to kind of drag you out of normal situations with regards to creativity and open up different experiences for you, and enjoy doing that is a really kind of special thing. So seeing her like that with art, and then obviously my kind of experiences in the NFT Web3 space, I just seen an opportunity to kind of pull them both together whilst giving Lorelai, a new knowledge, a new set of skills that will hopefully last her for the rest of her life, as we go forward with this. And whether she does anything beyond this or not, I think the actual process is going to be something that we can both look back on as a really positive experience and something we've both grown from.
Yeah, I mean, we're early. So to think of Lorelai, who's 10, entering, the NFT space, Web3, and this,
Yeah.
even if she's not learning the terminology, she's experiencing it, right? Which I think is even more important than understanding it. It's going through it. How has that been? Because I imagine you've been doing it together when it comes to the actual minting of the NFTs and that process of setting up a mint. Like, what have you taken care of? What has Lorelai taken care of? And how's that kind of dynamic played out?
So I think I guess my expectations have changed and have had to change as we started this to where we are now. Right now, Loralai is a 10-year-old girl whose focus and attention shifts on a daily basis, and I just need to be really respectful of that. So, there is times when I'm just like, well, actually, there's this stuff that we need to do and we need to get it done. We've now set a date, and Lorelai's like, well, yeah, but like I'm listening to Taylor Swift for the next couple of hours in my room, and but that's also important to her. So I can't really be like, oh no, actually no, swap this out, because I want this to remain fun for her. So with regards to the things that we do, so Lorelai is all art. There's a couple of traits where I've been like, oh, I'm going to try my hand at this, and I've done a couple of things, and that's amazing, because I mean, I would never, and it's probably still don't consider myself an artist, but the fact that I can now open up an iPad and put on Procreate, create a layer, select different brushes, select different colors, and draw something of an average level is miles away from where I thought I would ever be with regards to art, and that's because of this thing with Lorelai. So I'm massively grateful for that. When it comes to the other side of things, the kind of the social media, obviously I deal with all of that, and that's more a parental decision than it is a kind of sharing of tasks decision. It's just, I'm never going to be a dad that's okay with his, child having an iPhone at the age of 10 and Snapchat and TikTok and stuff. It's just, I just think there's time for all of that madness later on. So I protect her quite a lot from that. And then when it comes to the practical mechanics of the mint, I want Lorelai to be involved. And hopefully the next stage of when she'll be involved is when all of the traits and the layers are together and they're saved, and we're basically putting them into the Kabila art generator. And I think that's a special moment, I think, because right now we've got a load of traits, we've got an idea how some of them look together, but then actually when you put it in a generator, and then all of these NFTs and images spit out the other end, and we're going through quality control, which ones we'll use and which ones we won't. I think that would be a really, kind of defining moment for her as an artist, as well as for this project. So she'll definitely be involved with that. She will have an idea of how to set up the NFTs and mint the NFTs and set up a launch pad. But my expectation when it comes to that is she'll be interested in the things she's interested, like us all. She'll be interested in the things she's interested in. She'll be bored with the stuff that she'll be bored at. But ultimately, the eureka moments of having the images, then having NFTs, and then having them on, a marketplace and people purchasing them, they're the big moments for her in this, and she'll be heavily involved in all them parts.
Love it. If there's let's imagine there's parents tuning into this right now, and they'd love to hear some of your key learnings in this process that you've been through with Lorelai. What any suggestions, any tips? Because in my mind it would be really cool to inspire other parents as well, right? To introduce their kids in a safe way, because I really like that you kind of you're doing it when it regards to social media and stuff like that. Like there's a balance, right, of introducing, but in a soft way, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think, from a tips perspective, I think other than, the tools that this would use. So, for instance, Kabila has, I've said this before, but Kabila has allowed me to even broach the subject of minting anything and, releasing an NFT collection with Lorelai. That was so far away from me on other chains. And yet, for some reason, we've now got this kind of package, very well thought out and, great user interfaces for all of the things that are involved with the minting of a collection. So Kabila will be the first tip. I think one thing which has been really good, and yes, social media is very much managed by me on a daily basis. But when it comes to amplifying and providing opportunities for Lorelai to speak, there's no one sells this project better than I do. Hearing Lorelai in spaces, just chatting away to people, talking about the process for her, and having that kind of childlike innocence come across when it comes to a project is that's going to sell her artwork to many more people than I will. So yeah, so I would say them two things really: good tools, usable tools that are not going to stress you out, and also kind of provide opportunities for your child to kind of to speak about the project outside of just you two.
Yeah, nice. And shine on X Spaces.
Yeah, it's necessary as well, actually, because Loralai's in a position now, which we've been in for a long time, being in this space of knowing what we know about the space, believing what we believe about NFTs and the use cases and the potential. And the day after Lorelai sold out her Hashnells collection, she went to school and she said to her teacher, "Oh, I sold all of my NFTs or the Hashnells yesterday." And the teacher was like, "What? What's an NFT?" And then and then Lorelai gave her understanding of what she believes an NFT is, which isn't perfect, and probably mine isn't, in most cases. So she's now got a group of friendship groups and even my friends and family and stuff, all the people that she could speak to about this amazing achievement of people all over the world owning a piece of her art.
Amazing.
No one understands it more than this community. So it's also an outlet. We get a lot out of people hearing her speak, but she'll get a lot out of people understanding what she's talking about, because there's just a bit of a lack of knowledge out there, I think, about the space.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. Let's talk about your Web3 journey a little, like how it started and how you ended up on Hedera.
I mean, I find my NFT journey really funny, because my NFT journey started with me driving in a car, listening to some kind of news bulletin or something, and it's mentioned NFTs. I think it might have mentioned CryptoPunks. There might have been quite a large CryptoPunk sale or something. And I was like, actually, I want to learn about NFTs. Wasn't really massively, technically savvy. I can kind of get my way around most things being creative, but from a perspective of Web3 and NFTs and crypto and things, it was massively new. And I actually Googled, it was in 2020, what are going to be the biggest NFTs of 2021 on Google, and Silks came up, the racehorse game, which I later found out was a paid advertisement. So it wasn't even like anyone was going, "Oh, Silks is going to be huge." It was like they'd paid for this article to be out there, basically saying Silks was going to be massive. So I downloaded Discord, joined Discord. They were just getting ready for a mint. And I got things kind of settled from a wallet perspective and was talked through a few of that. and I remember I went in the Discord and I didn't even understand the language at the time, but I went in the Discord and was like, I asked a little bit of someone's advice about something, and then they said DYOR, and I was like, okay, what does that mean? They were like, well, do your own research, and I was like, well, fine, I'll not ask again. Thinking they were just being really like kind of petty. So yeah, Silks was how I kind of got on board in NFTs in general, and I found that whole mint process at the time kind of been lost a little bit as time's gone on, because it was right at the back end of the bull run that I joined. But that's, I mean, I guess that's indicative of my life being, kind of someone who's age 40. I remember before mobile phones and after mobile phones, before the internet and after the internet. And now I remember when there was loads of money in NFTs, and now, kind of not so much. So it's fitting, really.
Nice. And yeah, it's a fun introduction. Everyone has these unique stories of how they got introduced to NFTs. It's always fun to listen. But that you mentioned Silks, which I actually interviewed on here, tokenizing horse racing. That was on ETH. So I imagine you spent some time on ETH, and then let's talk about the Bandits, because you're also part of the Bandits project, which I believe is going through a rebrand. Originally a project on Ethereum that bridged to Hedera. Tell me about that process. Why bridge to Hedera, and how has it been on Hedera since then?
we I'd been in a few projects around on ETH. I'd pretty much almost always been on ETH. Part of Silks, I'm still in a project called Fat Cats, and I think Genuine Undead had kind of came out, and there was this kind of massive shift towards community-driven leadership of projects. It kind of had been something that had been dropped. The price had done really well. The community had banded together and put together a Discord, and were really active. And then on the back of that meta, I guess the free mint of Infernals came out, which I missed. But about a week or two later, I decided to kind of to buy some, and I did. And then I realized, because I'd been wanting to be part of, or at least see behind the curtain of how a project was run on NFT or in NFTs. And I realized that there was this quite unique thing in Infernals where if you own 15, you were able to be part of a council, or at least apply to be part of a council. And therefore, kind of part of the back end of stuff and see a little bit behind that curtain. So I decided that that's what I was going to do. I bought 15 of them. I then applied to be on the council, and quite quickly things kind of blew up from a perspective. It became really quite clear just how mismanaged things were. They were ticking along. They were doing all right, but ultimately we're never going to be quite a huge project. Yet the aspiration, or at least the outward facing communication, was kind of hinting that it was just around the corner, and it never really was. So we, as part of the kind of the council and stuff, there was a bit of infighting, and then one of the people that were in charge of it, or was left in charge of it, kind of stepped down, and then there was a process of deciding who would be taken over, and I was one of the chaps who took over from an outreach perspective, and I worked together kind of with as the team just to really kind of keep things afloat. And we suffered setback after setback. So the Discord was hacked, we lost access to Twitter, we didn't have access to the smart contract, so we from that perspective it was really difficult. And also we didn't have the art, because this was something that was dropped and then left. And we eventually kind of got all of them things. And by that time, OpenSea had decided that there was going to be no more royalties for the project. And that really kind of, that really should have been, I guess, the catalyst to go, well, actually, maybe this is just not going to work at all. But we continued to try and find a way to kind of do something. The team decided they weren't going to take any payments at all, and we didn't take any payments. We still haven't taken any payments. Maybe I guess one in now what's nearly 17 months. But ultimately, we liked the community. We liked the idea that we were running a project. We were getting a lot from it ourselves, and I believe actually in many cases things happen for a reason. And I do think the experience I've gotten from Infernals has given me the confidence and the skills and the knowledge to be able to do something different and support Loralai with it. And so we were at a point where the royalties were switched off. We didn't really have any kind of source of income. We had a bit of limited community funds, and we were trying to think of ways to overcome that. The community at that point had kind of checked out for the most part. There was, at one point there was 1,600 holders, yet we weren't really seeing that in engagement on X or in Discord. And there was really at that point a core community of about, I'd say even as low as 20 to 30 who were actively engaged in supporting something. And we kind of identified who the artist was. We went through this route of let's release another collection with this artist, but let's move to Polygon where there is a massive gas fees. And we were, in the midst of doing that and decided not. We got knocked back a few times time-wise from the artist who seemed to be kind of stringing us along a little bit. And then, kind of as things turned out, released their own collection, kind of before we'd even got a chance to kind of talk about things. I'll probably say no more about that process, but it seemed quite suspicious timing-wise. And we... So the Polygon thing got knocked on the head. We just took a bit of a step back. One of the things that we were really good as a team was being quite consistent. And at that point, we'd been running weekly spaces, Western Wednesdays, for about 9 months-ish, 8 9 months. And we were getting guests on for quite a while, from speaking about different things. And sometimes it was easy to get guests on, sometimes it was hard. And actually, we organised a Hedera based spaces, invited a load of projects from Hedera spaces. Expected one or two to turn up, and it felt like the whole of Hedera turned up at that space. And the energy was just, kind of really amazing, kind of really supportive. There wasn't anyone jumping on anyone else to gain something. They seemed to really thrive from each other doing well, and that really felt like a place that we should be. So so we decided to jump ship to Hedera and came up with a unique way of doing that.
Nice. And you mentioned royalties being switched off, which I think affected many projects back when it happened. The cool thing on Hedera, which you probably realize, is that the royalties are baked into the actual collection, right? There's no third party that can mess with that like they managed to on Ethereum. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think it's a big deal for projects. It's a big deal for projects when they're kind of making plans, and also artists to be paid. And I think around the time there was a lot of discussions around royalties, about people saying, well, actually, royalties being switched off is absolutely fine if a project can't deal with if a project can't build and has to rely on royalties, then that's not a sustainable project. And I just find that whole argument nonsense. Every business that's ever existed has planned and relied on a certain source of income. So whether it's royalties or whether it's the kind of something else, it's a part of building, and it's a sensible part of building. And then from the artist perspective as well, you kind of you think about some of the artists from hundreds of years ago that made paintings and sold them for pennies that now sell for millions, and their families have probably kind of just, but the lineage of their families have probably in some cases been really quite underwhelmed or not had much money. And actually, if they had a system of NFTs where if something did become £1 million purchase, then why shouldn't the person who created that get a kickback from that? It seems fair. So I'm all for royalties.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of the initial selling points, or revolutionary features that was always part of NFTs. It's what made a lot of the big projects what they are today. So it was definitely an interesting time that the space went through, and we're happy to have them baked in on Hedera, because we're all about creators, empowering creators, and it's important, like you say. Glad you made it through that though.
Yeah, well, there were probably times when when kind of we could have walked away. I think in general, each of us probably had at least a moment in that time where we just thought, well, actually, this is a lot. This is a lot to ask of us. From a perspective of. I mean, I guess the thing that drove us forward, or has been driving us forward, is a sense of loyalty to the people who've been with us this whole time. Kind of sense of romance with regards to where we were and what we want to build. And I think they're all kind of good things to drive you, but that sometimes sometimes it doesn't hold water when you're up against other things and doing other things. So yeah.
But now I believe you're in a different position, right? There's a rebrand going on. It's no longer the Infernals, it's the Bandits. Nope. What does the future look like for the Bandits on Hedera?
So I mean, I'd mentioned how we kind of came about, kind of running the Infernal. So it was a community kind of driven thing. We had a full governance document. We were voted into position. Well, I say voted into position. There was 4 positions and 4 people voted. So yeah, bit of a weird one that. I'm not sure it would stand up in any kind of court of arbitration, but there we go. So all of that was kind of community driven, and as much as it's been great to kind of learn from that structure and build from a position of, I guess, a level of authority with, decision making and stuff, it's never really felt like this is ours. We've kind of, the artwork wasn't created. We weren't part of that process. It was minted, and, kind of, we've still got people coming into the Discord saying, hey, I spent 13 grand on these Infernals. Like, what's happening? And it's just like, well, you didn't I haven't got your £13,000. So that was all kind of before our time. And so I think the idea of running something community based is really good, but ultimately, from our point of view, as people leading the project and driving the project forward, it never really felt like fully ours. And I think we've been striving for something where we can grab hold of it and add that level of accountability, because obviously when Bandits mints and we do what we do with the Bandits, that we then do become accountable fully for that. Whereas the Infernals, I guess we've got a little bit of leeway in the fact that we took this on and picked this up and drove it forward, whereas the Bandits is our thing. And I think it's that part of it's really exciting. We love the Infernals. We love what it's brought to us. The lore that we've been kind of bringing out, our journey from Ethereum to Hedera has all been, I guess, gamified, and people have been involved in a really fun way in that, rather than just picking it up and dropping it. And I think that's been really fun. But I think the Bandits is just going to kind of give us another level of individuality. I think as a project on Hedera, one of the reasons that I think that, not that we've struggled, because I think the Hedera community and a lot of the Hedera community have been very welcoming to Infernals, and we got the welcome that we expected based on that spaces that we had a while back. But I think ultimately we haven't had that moment with them where we've launched something, we've designed something, we've shared it with them. And I think the mint for the Bandits is going to be that moment for us, and we're going to be able to put something forward that we're spending a lot of time to get right from an art perspective. So that's going to be really, really exciting.
Nice. Very nice. And the Sad Cat mint, I know it's coming up very soon. Is there anything you'd like to touch on regarding the mint and I know obviously, like you say, from 1 week to the next, Loralai could be on to the next thing, but between what you envision and maybe what Loralai has shared, how do you see the future of the Sad Cats, or where would you like to see it in the future?
Yes. So, and I think that I just think this is just the brilliance of youth, if I'm being honest with you. I think when we had that conversation, when we were talking about an NFT project, and you could probably get 6, 7, 8, 9 marketing adult geniuses in a room and just go, listen, we want to come up with a really kind of catchy name. We want it to be instantly identifiable. We want it to appeal to people. We want it to be really clear what this is and have a vision for it. And then you get one 10-year-old doing a boxing match eating pizza going, yeah, I want an NFT project and I want to call it Sad Cats. And it's just like, just an off the cuff thing. But I think what she's done there, I mean, the art is going to be, it's going to be brilliant. She's clearly someone who is, you can see from the moment she started thinking about this to the moment we're at now. And I shared a tweet a couple of weeks back of her first Sad Cat to a recent Sad Cat, and the difference, even in that short space of time, is unbelievable. But I also think that Sad Cats has the potential to kind of be a real driver with regards to a brand as well, and doing other things with that. And that's why I've kind of released a little bit of a plan, or an idea of a plan, if you like, because I was really careful I want to be really careful not to kind of, over-promise in what it is that we can do, because ultimately, like anything, this is going to be dependent on, the success of the mint, really. But the Sad Cats collection will be a 444 collection, which is larger than we'd anticipated at first. But I think the main reason is because Loralai just keeps designing new traits. So we're currently up to like 125 traits. And then as I left today, she was like, oh, I've had an idea for another trait. And it's just like, okay. So I've got to kind of give her that freedom, but then we've also got to try and fit them traits in somewhere. So I think actually a 444 collection is going to be the top limit. We might reduce it depending on how they come out the other end of the art generator, but that's what we're looking at the moment. And we've had conversations with a merchandiser who actually is about a 5-minute walk from our house, which is really handy. The guy that I've known for quite a while. When I've been on tour with the band, he runs a fleet of tour buses, so we use one of his tour buses on the band. So that's a nice little link. And so we had a conversation with him about merch. Loralai's really, which is, this has kind of always been in Loralai. So at the age of 8, just to give you a bit of context, so my wife has run an online shop for probably about 6-7 years. It was called Merpin. She shut it down now, but in that time she'd had 40,000-50,000 pounds worth of sales, like 10,000 orders plus, and did really well with it. But as a result of that, she got a lot of contacts with regards to producers of different merchandise items. And when Loralai was 8, 7 going on 8, she did a climate change pin badge where she basically drew a world with a plaster on it and little arms and stuff like that. And Sarah got it made for her. So this is actually not Loralai's first project. And she ended up, kind of doing interviews with the press, and there was Climate Action North, a charity in the Northeast, made her an ambassador and got all of their kind of presidents out to kind of see her. And then her school bought loads of them and gave them out to climate change ambassadors and stuff. So I think that side of stuff is just seems like a little bit of an easy opportunity with regards to building a brand and building merch and using them contacts that have kind of already been built up. So that's a loose plan really for after the mint. When it comes, and I think the main thing of that, the main reason I've kind of planned it like that, I guess, is because that doesn't put any extra pressure on Loralai. So as I said, she's the artist. If she decides that that's the only part she wants to be involved in, then there's no reason why she needs to be part of other things apart from design and merch, because it's all of her art. The other more practical side of things, she might decide not to, but she enjoys that kind of stuff. Like she's attended markets for, the last 3 or 4 years, and Sarah will attest, my wife will attest, she's a better salesperson at their markets than Sarah is as well. She are branded up with Merpins and selling and kind of selling stuff. So I'm sure she will be interested, but the plan or the idea that we put forward for something which we could potentially do with Sad Cats going past the mint is something that doesn't rely heavily on or too much on Loralai. It's something that I can kind of just drive a little bit.
Makes sense. I love that merge of your Web2 or in real life, the merch, the art, and now just kind of integrating Web3 in a way. Pretty cool. Definitely inspiring to hear the story and the journey about you and Loralai. I'm excited to see where it goes, how it unfolds, and I'm sure the community is as well. Is there anything we haven't touched on today that you'd like to touch on?
No, I mean, I guess just to reiterate, the mint for Sad Cats is on June 10th. And the process that we've got at the minute, because we have got the sold out hash nulls, anyone who minted a hash null can claim 2 free mints, which will be the first stage of the mint. And then we've got Sad Cats passes, of which I've still got quite a lot to hand out. and obviously people will be able to mint with that going forward. And then obviously we get to that stage public mint after that. So yeah, that's the process for the mint.
Nice. And I'm sure if there's any parents watching or listening in, they can reach out, right? If they have any questions regarding NFTs,
absolutely.
Kids,
absolutely.
How to get started.
Nice. Yeah, and I think that's the cool thing, because I think, I came across another one this morning that Scott tagged me in, a guy called Scott tagged me in on Twitter, of another, kind of parent-child NFT project. And I think now that we're doing this, Batty, Hattie, Caden and Nico, and then there's, kind of this other one, which I'll forget the name of, but there seems to be a little bit of a growing trend in that. And obviously the crypto space and Web3 space is so big that I think once if you were to look at all of the different chains, there's probably 1 or 2 on each of them. And I love the idea of collaboration or essentially, like in the future, 3-4 years down the line, having like a a conference which is, essentially just, based on young people's education around this, and creators like that coming together and sharing their stories. I think that'd be really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, this is the next wave, right, of creators in Web3, which will be the norm at some point when Loralai is a bit
Absolutely.
older. It will be everywhere. Yeah, so that's exciting, inspiring. Thanks for taking the time today, Ricky.
No
It's been really
worries.
great.
Thanks for having me.